What's happening, financial coaches? Pete here. Hope you're doing well. Hey, want to talk to you talk to you about something, and it might be a little bit of a rant. But basically, I have a rule, and I've got a little story about it. But I think we all know people who have shared their goals with us, and it's not necessarily as a client thing, but you may know people. I grew up with people that said, "Hey, I'm going to own a Ferrari one day," or "I am going to be the CEO of a company one day." And that's all great. I'm all for people having ambition and sometimes knowing with clarity what that goal is. But one of the things that we have to do as financial coaches is help people move and make progress and, help them achieve some of these things where possible. And so one of the things that I have is a general rule is that I only want to hear the goal once. The only thing I want to hear after that is what we've done towards the goal. Let me give you an example here. And this is a real example, and I'm going to, again, anonymize it a little bit here. But, I spoke with someone and she wanted to do some online training. Basically, she was working and doing some classes for nail technician licensing, basically at a trade school for this. And unfortunately, the school had some financial problems and she ended up losing her job. But one of the things that she thought she could do is, since she was doing this class to begin with, is just do it digitally now. And ultimately, what we came uh, to a conclusion was that she would just end up recording herself doing the exact same class, following the exact same lesson. She had an hour-long class, and she could just do that in front of the camera, and she knew she wasn't a great cinematographer or anything like that, but that was what she was going to do. And then once she had that done, she was going to go off and try to get some help in terms of posting it and maybe doing some editing, post-production stuff, and get it up there and whatnot. And so 6 months later, I was really excited that she reached out and wanted to do a follow-up session. And so I connected and I said, "Yeah, how did things go? Did you get your first client? Have you sold anything? Did you figure out what the price point is?" And blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, I think it probably surprises no one that in this case she had done nothing. And I had asked her, "What do you mean you had done nothing? Did you try recording it and you didn't like it, or the sound was bad, or the lighting was awful, or whatever?" She's like, "No, I just never did it. I wasn't sure how to frame stuff up." She had actually a bunch of some technical questions. And I said at one point, "Did you not use Google at all? Because all of these are very well documented. There's lots of resources out there. There are a million YouTube videos that'll show you how to do it." She's like, "I wasn't sure how to upload them to YouTube or title them or whatever it might be." And there are wonderful resources everywhere. And if you just type any of these questions into Google, it's going to come up with something. And she knew that. And the reality is, basically, what she kind of used the session is, "Hey, I still know that this is going to be very popular. I know that I'm going to be an authority in this. I know I'm going to help change people's lives in this." And the problem with that is that's what I heard the first time. And then we started to break that down into tactics and the next steps and to-dos for her. And then when we come back, even though nothing has been done, some people are under this delusion that they are going to have these massive results and nothing has been done towards them. And I think we all know people like this. And I think basically what I'm bringing up here is that in a lot of cases, when we come across people like this, we find them kind of annoying, right? We find people that maybe we're working in an office and they just talk about how they have a 3-year plan, or they are going to retire at this day and age, or they are going to buy such and such property, or they are going to be massively successful at this point, or own their own business, or whatever it is, right? I've heard everything from "I'm going to buy a McLaren F1" to "I am going to donate $100,000 a year. That's my goal." And I have no problems with any of these goals, and I don't have problems with materialistic goals either. So I think these are things that help reward us, right? They kind of address needs that we have as human beings. But the problem is when all we hear are those goals, when all we hear are, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and never any action towards it, we start tuning it out, right? Because we know in our minds, as outside third party listeners, that they're not going to hit these goals. They're all bluster, they're all talk. And I think we know people like this. Now, the key is when we have clients like this, we also want them to be action and not talk. And so how do we help develop this? And I would also say, and this is a moment to be self-aware too, is as a financial coach, are you saying these things? Am I saying these things? Believe me, I've been guilty of many of these things myself, right? That I want to be at a certain point, and I've had 3-year plans, and I want to have such and such deliverables and so many clients and whatever it might be, and a lot of those targets are missed. And a lot of that is because I think what we think and what we've heard is that we tell people that those people will help us manifest those results that we want. And the reality is that can. I've heard, I think it was Jim Rohn who said, I wanted to play golf with Jack Nicklaus, not Jack Nicholson, the famous golfer Jack Nicklaus, and that was one of his life's goals. And he told some people, and some people knew some people who knew some people, and so that network effect is what actually helped him get that golf date with Jack Nicklaus. And so to play with a legend like that was a dream fulfilled. And part of that happened because he shared that with other people. Now, what I think is that we think by just putting it out there, we have done our part. Right? We have said, I want to be successful. I want to buy a car. I want to get promoted. And we expect now, hey, we've put that out there, and my friends are good to me, that they should help. They should kind of figure out how to do it. It's kind of one of these problems of networking. We go out there and we think, where are the referrals? Where are the referrals to me? And we're not doing the giving. We're not doing the work. And this is the problem, is that I think a lot of people think that just by putting that out there in the universe, that now that's all I have to do. I can go in passive mode because someone is going to know someone at my company who's going to give me a chance, recognize me, maybe say, hey, this person's ambitious or whatever. And it alleviates us of the responsibility of going on doing something. And that's why I only want to hear about the goal once, because I don't want to keep hearing about it. I don't want to keep coming back to it. And that's why I don't even revisit the goal often with clients in sessions, because it's kind of irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant is that goal. It helps me understand where they're going to go, like directionally, right? And what I want to hear from that, and it's only one of 4 things I put in notes with my clients, is progress. It's the number 2 thing, and it's the one I put most of the detail around. And that's because for me, what I want to know is, between the last time we met and this time, what have you done to actually make that happen? What have you done to realize this? I don't really care if it's small or large. I don't care if my note is one line. Hey, I reached out to someone who also has a catering company, and I just asked him or her if they would give me some insights about, starting up a catering company. That may be the only thing that's happened. And maybe that's the only thing that's happened in 6 months, but at least it's something that's happened. It's something that's helped a person take a step towards it. Now, in some cases, people just crush it out, right? Hey, I did that. I got my business set up. I got blah, 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 blah. I got my first client. I billed them. I got that money deposited in my business bank account, whatever it might be. And that's what I'm saying is, that kind of stuff is great because it moves us along the path. And often when we hit that goal, we will bust right through it, because now we have a process in place, because we know what incremental progress is like. We know what it means to make progress every day and to keep pushing forward, and we enjoy that process, and now often that goal becomes relevant. So what I don't want to hear about is that goal, because I don't want to use that as some sort of artificial mark. I want to get us on a direction. I want to get people on a direction. I want them to feel progress. I want them to see the results and keep plowing through and say, hey, that's great. A lot of times people have these arbitrary goals. I want to make 6 figures in a year. I want to make $1 million. Well, they're all fine, but they're all kind of dumb in many ways, right? They're just arbitrary numbers. And when you have a 6-figure income, it doesn't mean that, wow, I finally made $100,000 this year, I'm going to quit, right? What it means usually then for people when they hit it is it's just kind of arbitrary. It doesn't feel any different than the day before when I was at $99,999. For a lot of people, when they say when they hit $1 million, it doesn't feel any different from when they had $999,999, right? And it doesn't feel any different from when they have $1,001,001. And so I think we have some of these benchmarks in our head, and they're kind of outlandish goals. But what's more important is, how did we get there, and how do we keep going through? How do we keep crushing it? How do we make that process a part of our life? And this is a lot of what I try to decode with people in the goal setting side of things, because I don't know that setting goals, other than kind of giving us a direction, is often very valuable. It's really that process of how we get there. And so I want to know not only what that process is, but what does that progress look like? What have we done? And that's really what I want to hear and celebrate. And this is what I'm talking about when we need to be maybe a little self-aware as coaches. What I see a lot of times is, financial coaches, and not to beat up on financial coaches, because this is the same for anyone who's in any discipline, but particularly in the entrepreneurial side of things, is that I know, people say, I know I am going to change lives. I know I'm going to connect with people. I know this is going to be successful. It's going to provide for my family. I'm going to make a big difference in other people's lives, in my own life. I know that I'm going to be referred heavily. I know, right? And yet, what I don't see are a lot of updates on what people are doing to get to the point where they're going to do that. What I don't see is a lot of people saying, hey, I knocked on 10 doors today, or I handed out flyers in front of the discount grocery store, or I, reached out to 5 of my friends to tell them what I'm doing, to ask if they knew anyone that maybe I should connect with, or I reached out to 10 organizations about doing a presentation, or I, wrote a webinar and provided it via YouTube Live, or whatever it might be, right? Those are all things that I will applaud, because that is actual work towards the goal. What I don't want to do is, like I said, applaud repeating the goal. There's no value, there's no honor in just going out there and saying what my goal is multiple times. And it goes for us in the business building world, but it also goes for my clients, the people that I work with, right? And again, I'm not trying to bash their dreams, but this is the point when I said in one of my videos, there may not be enough friction in your coaching calls. What I didn't want this client to do is give her a free pass and say, that's great, but what happened over the last 6 months? You had a full day after we spoke to kind of look up some of these things, or just to sit down and record yourself. And you had another day, and day 3, and a 4th day, and a 5th day, and 100 days, and then another 100 days. You almost had 200 full days to go from here to here. And you went from here to nowhere, right? The call we had 6 months after the initial call was a call that we could have had 10 minutes after the initial call. Nothing got done, right? So I wanted to say, and I told her, listen, I hear you. I hear that you're going to massively impact people and you're going to do it digitally, and that's great. But I knew that 6 months ago. What I am surprised to hear is that you didn't do anything on it. And I'm just kind of curious, what held you up? And you hear some excuses. And I say, hey, you know what? These sound like excuses to me. Did you really not in the last 200 days have 10 minutes to Google some of these answers, or to sit down and write out some notes, or to just take the lesson plans that you had and record them in front of a TV, or narrate them into a recorder? I mean, did you not have that time? It sounds like you need an hour to actually produce the material digitally. And can you not find that? Like, what do we need to do here? What do we need to do right now so that you can do something that's that is moving you towards that goal? And I don't really care what it is. If it's tomorrow, you're going to take 1 hour and run through it all, a dry run in front of your cell phone camera, and just do it once and see what you think, then that's progress towards it, right? And I'm fine if you look at that afterwards and you're like, oh, that's terrible. And obviously I need to get a tripod set up, and I need to find a better backdrop, and I need a quiet house. Great. But that's progress towards it. But I don't need a 6-month update on something, because every time you tell me something and nothing happens in between, that goal becomes less credible. The idea of you achieving it or even making progress to it becomes diminished, right? And that's part of my job, is to say, hey, I'm going to give you love and support and encouragement when you need it, but I'm also not going to let you off the hook, because that's also my job. My job is progress. My job is to help you figure out how to make the things happen that you want in a supportive way. But sometimes we need to be very clear and be able to have a little friction with clients, that when they aren't doing those things, they can't just call and expect accolades and applause and rewards and likes on their posts, right? Things need to happen. That's when things get achieved, right? That's when our clients start feeling empowered. That's when they start seeing results. That's when we start making them self-efficacious. That's when we start teaching them to fish. And, whether it is online, like I said, on some people, when they just post their goals over and over again, I'm going to be a financial coach, I'm going to be successful in this, those are not posts I like. Those are usually posts that get questions or comments from me about, what did you do today towards that, or yesterday towards that, or what's your plan for today? What's the action step that you're going to take right now, or this week, or this year? I don't even care what the tempo is. I just care that you're doing something. And that's why that section of my notes is progress, because that is a real key. It's not how much, it's just doing it. That's the mindset. So what are you doing towards it? Not what are you trying to convince me that you're going to do? So that's my rant for today. I only want to hear the goal once, and I want to hear progress. What have you done towards that every other time, right? And then if the goal changes, obviously, I want to know what the goals change. But I put those in my notes. I know what the goal is. You don't have to remind me, and I don't want to hear it again. All I want to hear is what have you done towards it. All right. So that's it. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you later.